Hello everyone, it's Laura here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video I'm gonna show you how to make a cute Christmas card using a bunch of products by Fawn. I used quite a few stamp sets actually, as well as their new nitpicky paper pad. And all the stamp sets will be listed in my blog post, which will be linked in the description box down below. So to start off the card, I stamped my images with Memento Tuxedo Black ink on some Nina Solar White cardstock, and I'll be coloring them with my Spectrum Noir markers. The reindeer on the left comes from the Toboggan Together stamp set, and the one on the right is from the Cheery Christmas stamp set. And I am shading these images as if my light source is coming from the top right corner. And in this case I started with my lightest color. I lay it down where my shadows will be, based on the position of the light source that I chose. Then I came in with my midtone and finally with my darkest marker. And now I am coming back in with first with the midtone and then with the lightest marker and blending out everything. You can also choose to start directly with your darkest marker, and this is what I will do for the smaller images that I'll be coloring in later, but this is kind of my preferred way to do it because it's a little bit safer and it allows me to, to block down the shadows. That's the word I'm looking for. To block down the shadows using the lighter markers so that if I make a mistake, I can still fix it. Whereas if I start with the dark marker already and I put the shadow in an area where it's not supposed to be, it's harder to fix that mistake. And this card was inspired by a video I saw by Jeanette Comerford, in which she combined the Fairy Friends stamp set by Fawn with the Baked with Love stamp set, and she had this little scene with the fairies basically baking a cake, and I thought it would be fun to reproduce something similar but having critters around the oven from the Sprinkled with Joy stamp set. I will now leave you with some music while I finish coloring my images, and I will catch you guys when the coloring is over. I decided to change the color combination for the oven. You probably noticed this bold red oven at some point during the coloring process lying around my desk, but I thought that was a little bit too bold, so I decided to go for a more neutral gray oven with a bit of a pop of red on the details. And now I'm using the add-on die set that coordinates with the Sprinkled with Joy set by Fawn. And this basically cuts the outline of the oven and also cuts the door in a way that you can open it. And It also leaves an opening where the window of the oven is. You know, where the glass part is, which I am now coating with some vellum, and I'm using this quickie rolled glue pen to adhere the vellum to the back of my oven door. Here I wanted to show you all the colored images. I will list the colors I used for the bird and the cookie tray on screen because those were not included in the coloring process. And for the cookie cutters, I used the same greens that I used for the bow. And the rest I think you've seen during the coloring process. But if you have questions, you can always leave me a comment down below. I then took a paper from the Nitpicky paper pad. This is also by Fawn, and I first cut it to a standard A2 size, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And now I'm using a die by Studio Katia to obtain a frame that I will use to basically frame my scene. For the background of my scene, I picked some more pattern paper from the Fawn Nitpicky paper pad. Both the papers have this knit pattern printed on them, just on, in different sizes. And I'm just measuring how far I want the red panel to go, and I'm using my oven as a reference. At this point, I stamped my sentiment, and I did it right now because I knew that I wanted to pop up some of the elements with some foam tape. So I thought it was best to stamp the sentiment while everything was flat. And to find the best positioning, or the positioning I preferred, I laid down the scene in my Mini Misty without gluing down anything. And I did some selective inking. So I am masking off the part of the sentiment that I don't want to stamp with a post-it note, and I am inking up the rest. So I want the sweet word to be stamped in red and the Christmas wishes to be stamped in black. So I will repeat the same process now with the black ink. These are both inks by Memento. The red one is the love letter and the black one is the tuxedo black. So I masked off the sweet word using, again, post-it notes. I inked up the Christmas wishes sentiment and I am stamping it. And I really like this pop of red in the sentiment at the top of the card. I think it balances off the red strip that I will be adhering at the bottom and also ties in the sentiment with the rest of the card. At this point, I can go ahead and start assembling my card. I am using some foam tape on the back of my frame to add some dimension to the card. And I am now taping down this red strip on my card base using my Crafter's Companion tape runner, and this will be like the floor in this little room where all the critters are baking all together. And now I am adhering the frame to the card base, being careful that I, stick it down as straight as possible. And 3M foam tape is quite forgiving in the sense that if you don't press it down too hard, you can still kind of pull it back off and adjust it a little bit. And now, because I need a background for my oven, the inside of the oven, I am gluing down a piece of white cardstock. And honestly, I could have maybe colored this cardstock in like a dark color or shade it a little bit to give more depth to the inside of the oven, but I thought this card had a lot going on already, so I didn't feel like I needed to add that extra detail. But you can certainly do so, and it will be even nicer probably like that. I am now adhering my cookies to the cookie tray using again this quickie glue pen and my Pick Me Up tool, which is really, really useful when dealing with small images or embellishments. And again using some tape runner to adhere it on the inside of the oven. And I think it's really nice that you have the vellum so you can still see through it, but you see the colors much brighter once you open the oven. So I thought this was a fun touch for the recipient to interact with this card a little bit. And I can finally go ahead and start putting my scene together. I adhere the oven because that's kind of the central piece and I wanted to position that before everything else so that I had a reference as to where to put the rest of the images. I put down the reindeer and this rolling pin in a way that they overlap a little bit with the with the frame, because I think this gives more dimension, more interest to the card. It makes it more dynamic. So for the parts that are adhered on the frame, I'm using glue, and for the parts that hang off the frame, I'm using some foam tape. And for this little ladder and the bird, I'm just adhering them down flat. And I thought, in the Cheery Christmas stamp set, this bird could be putting ornaments on the tree, climbing on the ladder, and I thought it would be funny if in this kind of scene it would be adding ingredients to the cookie bowl. I wanted a little bit more green on the bottom of the card, so I am trimming the bottom of this cookie cutter a little bit so that I can tuck it behind my rolling pin. And layering and overlapping elements on scenes make them much more interesting and much more fun, in my opinion. And it's one of my favorite things to do in card making. I really love creating scenes on my cards. I think it's the thing I end up doing the most. I adhere the squirrel and the jar flat to my card base, and this little reindeer is popped up on some foam tape. And that's it. That's my card for today. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and you found it useful. If so, please let me know in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. You can visit my blog for the full list of supplies, and I hope I'll be back soon with another video. Ciao!